So, Brent, what do you think about feminism?
Feminism. Don't worry, I got my shots 3 weeks ago. It's just a scratchy throat. It's no big thing.
No, it's not like the flu. It's not an illness.
Is it though? Isn't it?
Yeah, no, like feminism versus Christianity. Like is feminism Christian?
That's a good question. Let's talk about that.
Where'd they come from?
This is the Good Question Show. Just tell me what I wanna know. The Good Question Show.
Well, hello there and welcome to the Good Question Show. I'm Brent, this is not Brent, as well as not Obel and Obel. Oh, welcome Obel. How are you doing?
Yes.
Doing good, doing good. I feel like there's something between us. I don't know how you feel about that, but yeah.
We are between you.
Literally.
What are you doing here?
Figuratively, I suppose.
Well, we're talking about feminism and Christianity today. So when you talk about feminism, it's kind of helpful to have females present. That's why we are here, to help you in the discussion.
Otherwise we'd have no credibility.
Yes.
No credibility,
Yeah, that
and
makes
we'll just
sense,
make
yeah.
jokes the whole day.
But yeah, I do want to say thank you for joining us, and I see you've also dressed the part. You got
We
the
did.
memo.
Yeah, we did.
Come on, Brent.
Not a part of your system, Obel.
Brent did not get the memo.
You did not get the memo. Or you got the memo. He's just rebelling.
And just rebelling. I work
mean,
with teenagers, so
yeah.
I mean, come on.
But it's one thing not wearing a blue shirt, but I mean not wearing like a proper shirt. That's
It
like
didn't
a
even
t-shirt.
try.
Yeah.
And I dressed up. I came in my nice shoes and everything.
And your point is?
No.
Oh,
Yeah, you
so
just
look,
you're
Back to
making
topic,
no.
gentlemen.
Oh,
Here we
that's
go.
why you're
This
here,
is
yeah.
why we are here, to help you.
To
Back
help
to
us,
topic.
yeah.
Feminism and
Exhibit A.
Christianity.
So we said for the topic feminism versus Christianity.
Yes.
But let's start off by just explain to us what is feminism. But
It's a
before
good
you do, can I
question.
just say, I do know what feminism is. I'm just.
Sure you do.
I don't want to be the guy in 2020 that's like, what's feminism? I've never heard of
Never
it.
heard of this. So I think maybe to start off the conversation, I think like any political movement, any social movement or whatever, it's always good to go and look, where did this thing start, okay? I think a lot of people are anti-feminism, but they don't necessarily know what they are saying no to. And I think a lot of people are pro-feminism, also not necessarily being fully aware of what they say yes to. So if you go way back in the day, and I mean, I'm talking 1800s, early 1900s, which Natasha's also going to touch on, feminism was actually the direct result of a very broken society. I mean, if we look at history, women were treated appallingly at certain points in history. They were treated unfairly. They had zero rights. Women weren't allowed to vote. They weren't allowed to legally own property.
Second-class citizens.
Second-class
Males
sentences
and then
through
females,
and
yeah.
through. Males were top of the kind of pile. Women were way at the bottom, treated horrendously. And then feminism was born, because feminism advocated equality and women's rights, even amongst the sexes, male and female. And that in itself is a really good thing. That's actually a biblical thing, standing up for the oppressed, you know, standing up against injustice. And that's where feminism was actually born. Women were treated as second-class citizens. They decided, I'm going to start standing up against this. I'm going to fight for equality. So if you want to put like a one-liner to it, feminism would equal the advocacy of women's equality and rights amongst the sexes.
Yeah, because if it's about fairness and equality,
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
in terms of that definition, then I'll be willing to say I'm
That's
a feminist.
Christian.
Yeah, that's
we
good. That's
can
Christian.
get on board with that.
Definitely. yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then where does feminism then become unchristian?
Okay,
Good
so I
question.
think to begin would say almost an analogy of what Aiden just explained would be the idea that in the past it was almost like women were at the bottom of the food chain, men at the top, and men dominating women. And then the first idea of feminism that started in 1948 actually, the women sort of leveled the playing field. They came this idea of, but we are equal and we deserve equal opportunities, you know, economically as well. So even actually in the beginning there was a meeting and the men were present at that first meeting in 1948. And then currently right now what we see is almost this militant left-wing idea of feminism that is sort of trying to topple what's happening right now to have women dominating over men, almost creating this idea that women can do better, women can be better than men, almost an idea of a substitute man, so to put it. So that I think is what would be versus the idea of Christianity or the picture that God has painted for
So,
us.
I mean, the problem with this kind of unhealthy strain of feminism is that it has the potential to no longer really focus on equality amongst men and women, but it's rather become like this battle of the sexes, kind of like who's
anti-male,
yes,
or
anti-male or anti-female. You know,
Yes.
it's unhealthy.
Like you have to pick a
feminism.
side.
Yes, you have to pick a side, and it's no longer really about the equality of men and women with each other.
Yeah.
Now it's this thing of, but women are better, they deserve better, they should do better, and men are not kind of like the bottom of the food chain. And that's unhealthy feminism, where it pits men and women against each other.
Yeah, and I think generally people are pretty confused these days on if you're a woman, what does it mean to be a woman, and as a guy, what does it mean to be a man? Like,
True.
men don't know how to be men, and women don't know how to be women
Anymore,
anymore.
yeah.
It's confusing. Yeah. Ben?
Yeah, I think that when we look at it, to see what the Bible actually says about this, it's a very important thing to see, because now we see men in the one side. You know, men are different to women. Let's be honest.
That
I
is
mean,
true.
myself and Aiden.
Very different.
Aiden's way different to what I am. You know,
She wore the
she's-
right shirt, you didn't.
Yeah, she listens to you and wears the right shirt. I didn't.
I do listen to you.
Yeah, sometimes. But, you know, it's just different spaces that we are in. And here's the thing, God never created us to clash against one another. He never created us to be separate from one another, but He actually created us to be with one another and work together. And I think that is a beautiful picture. When you see a man on his own, that is a lost world. I mean, you can ask, oh, well, me and him were single
Imagine
at
there were
stage.
only men in the world.
In the world, this place would be ruined. It would literally be ruined. And in the same way, if there were just women in this world, it would have probably been better than the men left it, I would say. But it would be
But still not
it would be
great.
still not great.
Still chaotic. So.
But when you put these two worlds together, something beautiful happens. I think that's why God always wants men and women to work in unity, and that they're always for one another and with one another. And when that starts happening, that's when we start seeing, a world change and the environment, community change. But the challenge is this, that we've been focused so much on what the differences are, and that we put the value in the differences and not in the person. And that's the crazy thing, is, you know what, if a man's stronger than a woman physically, then, you know, he's the better one. Or if a woman's smarter than the guy.
Therefore, he can decide who to vote for, but a woman can't.
Exactly.
Yeah, like,
and if a woman is
like-
smarter than the guy, then therefore she is the better one.
Yeah.
And the thing is, now you're taking the differences and playing their value on that.
Yes.
And not actually the way that God looks at us and says, you know what, man and woman, male, female, it does not matter. You have the same value in my hands,
The
in
beauty
my
is
heart,
in the
my
difference,
eyes.
yeah.
But the differences is what makes it beautiful. That's when those two differences start filling one another in. When we start taking the scale and kind of leveling it out, where my weakness is her strength and her strength is my weakness. And that's when we start doing amazing things.
Yeah.
So God created us to be put together, not to clash against one another, and not to live without one another. I think that is also a scary place. If we separate these two worlds, they need to be together.
Yeah, if either, well, I think in feminism you would get this idea of, well, I don't need a man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that idea. And
Well
I think there might be some truth to that. But in reality, if we look at the Bible, God looked at Adam and He says, no, this guy needs a woman. And the same goes for women. So the Bible doesn't put men and women apart, and it doesn't put them against each other, but with each other and for each other, for one another.
Especially
But
when you
equal
look
in
at Adam,
value,
it's like you really need someone.
So equal in value, but still different. Yes, same, but different.
Same, but different.
But still same.
Yeah. That's very good, yeah. So, but let's maybe take a break and play a game.
Yes.
And this game is called Can He Do It? Because there's a reason why feminism started. Because in certain things, men believed they can't do it or they don't have to do it.
Women ought to do it.
Yes. So we're going to play a little game. And I suppose we can play the same game, Can She Do It?
Can she do
Can
it?
she do it?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Let's
Play
do
the
that.
game. And now for our game, we are calling this game Can He Do It? And the reason is we found this cool poster. Last week we had on the little table that we usually have in the Good Question show when the ladies were presenting, we had the feminism poster which says
We can do it.
we can do it,
Yeah.
yes. And then I found this cool one that says he can do it. And that's why we're playing a game, Can He Do It? And so we're going to ask the ladies, you can ask the guys 2 questions, and then we're going to ask the girls 2 questions on can she do it.
Right.
So Any question you want to ask?
Yes, so
can you do it?
typical, gender stereotypes. I'll kick us off. For the men, can he wash the dishes?
Please.
Ooh, that's
Controversial one.
controversial one.
Brent,
Yes, he can definitely
Sharp.
wash the dishes.
he can do it.
There we go.
He can do it.
He can do it. He can do it. But when did washing dishes become like a thing that women are supposed
A
to do?
gender role.
A gender role. Why is it that? Isn't it something
Yeah.
that we should all just know how to do?
It's a life
Question.
skill.
It's a life
It's
skill.
not like men don't
Questions.
eat. They also eat.
It's like if
make
we're saying
dishes.
to like change a light bulb, I mean, men and women should be able to do that. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to
But,
see or not?
yeah, I think the scary thing is that we grew up like that. I think when we're seeing my mom washing dishes, you'd think, you have to, it's the mom that washes the dishes. It's a feminine role. But it's not actually that. It's a role for all of us. So can he wash the dishes? Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Good
Hallelujah.
stuff. All right, second question. I see there's a baby there.
Yes.
And I think everybody's going to be so happy. Can he help with the baby?
You.
He can.
Yeah, yes. Not me.
And
yet.
I do. Yes. Yeah, definitely. I heard a guy once say that, it's actually quite unfair if a guy says he's not going to change the nappies.
Yeah.
Because, this poor lady had the discomfort and all the nausea in the beginning of carrying the baby,
Sure.
then childbirth,
Which is
which
bad. I
apparently
hear.
hurts a lot.
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently.
Apparently it's
tough.
discomforting.
Apparently it's kind of a discomfort. And then the guy has the audacity to say, "Oh no, gross! I don't want to change nappies." I've got a friend, and he once actually said that no, he just told his wife like he feels he wants to vomit, like if he sees poo. And I'm like, yeah, but do you hear what you're saying? Is you're saying that what if that's the way she feels? Like it's like
Then
no,
what must happen?
it's too gross for me to
Yeah.
handle
Yeah.
poo.
She likes
but
poo,
then
apparently.
she probably
She'll
knows how
probably
to
do.
handle poo. Why is handling poo a gender role?
A female
That makes no
100%.
sense. So definitely, guys need to step up, stop playing with your little computer games, and change the nappies.
Xbox.
Yeah,
Change the
Yeah.
nappies.
it's just aimed at someone in the room.
That's
right?
cool. Some stereotypes
stuff.
broken right there. I think
Definitely,
it's awesome.
he can do it.
He can do it.
He can
Yeah.
definitely
So
do
maybe
it.
a question for the ladies.
Uh-huh.
Can she do it?
Can she do it? So maybe first question is this: can she pursue a career?
Can she pursue a career? Yes, absolutely. But I think if you ask the question on can she pursue a career, you need to ask kind of two additional questions. Like asking a woman a question is never that simple. You
Yeah.
have to like
True.
add subheadings to everything.
So we have them here.
So can she pursue a career? Yes, absolutely, and we'll get to that in a minute. But then we also need to ask the additional questions. Can she be a homemaker? And even the question of can she do both at the same time? And I think I would definitely want to refer our viewers to last week's episode, definitely, because
one, good one.
we did speak about, women's roles as a homemaker versus a career woman.
Yeah.
Can she do both? Absolutely, because the point is it doesn't matter if you're a homemaker or a career woman, it will never define your value.
Yes.
Your value is firstly
good.
defined in God, your maker.
Yes.
And if we look at certain biblical references, they refer to both. The
Yes.
typical Proverbs, 31 women that's
Waking
written
up
about in the
at
Old
5
Testament, that woman was in business. It was
Yes.
referring to a
Yes.
woman in business.
Sure.
If we
That's
consider Acts, Priscilla and Aquila, the women in the household, she was actually a very successful businesswoman. But there are also a whole bunch of references about, women being mothers, women being caretakers. So can she pursue a career? Yes.
Yes, come
Can
on.
she be a homemaker? Yes.
Yeah.
Can she do both at the same time? And I think especially in our society today, because
Yeah.
that's what society today would ask of women, to kind of do both. Yes, absolutely, because your worth is not found in your role.
Yeah, and it's something that each woman can sort of decide and figure out for herself.
Yes.
There's nothing
Yes.
unbiblical on,
Yes,
one
it doesn't
Either
make you
or.
any less of a
Yeah.
woman
There's
if you are
value
a
in both
homemaker
roles.
or a career woman.
Another
Go girl.
question.
Hallelujah.
Go girl.
Can she change the tire?
You can she? That's a good one. That's a
I
good
just
one.
want to say I can.
no.
So
Have you changed the tire before?
She can
I've
over
helped
here.
in changing a tire.
Help.
So you can't change
I
the
know.
tire.
I know what needs to happen.
But can you though?
I'm strong.
Yes,
strong,
she
yeah.
can.
We'll test it.
No, really, to answer the question,
this episode.
Aiden has already answered the question. Yes, she can, but she doesn't have to if she has the privilege of having a man there to do it for her.
Yes.
That's a good
one.
answer. Yeah.
That's a
So
very
it's
good one.
okay for a girl to allow a guy to change the tire
Yes.
and he get his hands
And
dirty
can I
because
just
that's
say-
her privilege.
Yes.
but it's good.
Can
if
I
you
just
can.
say something
okay.
for a guy? It's really nice because you feel like the
Yeah.
superhero in that moment. It's
Yeah.
kind of nice to just
And you
tell us
are.
like you are kind
and
of
you
cool.
are.
You know, it
Yes.
feels good. You're like you as a man. You're like, haha. You know, I
Yeah.
helped
Yes.
out,
Yeah.
and you feel good. So,
I think it's almost the same as opening the door as well. It doesn't make you any less of a woman or any more of a woman because you're
I'll
opening your
open my
own
own
door.
door.
Yeah, like
Yes,
it's
yeah.
okay,
True,
you know.
yeah.
Let
Yeah.
the guy open the door once
That doesn't
in a
mean
while.
you are a weak woman
Yes.
if a guy changes a tie for you
Yes.
or opens the door. And I think it's the same thing with guys, like because like changing a nappy.
yeah.
It doesn't mean that you are weak when you change a nappy. In
Yes.
fact, if you're not willing to change a nappy, you are weak.
Yes.
Like you are
Tell
really
them,
not.
Abel.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, I get-
Preach it.
Tell them, come on.
Yeah.
There's
Anyway.
a nappy obsession over here.
He can do it.
He can
He
do
can
it.
do
Okay.
it.
And she can do it.
She can do it as well.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
That was a
Let's
fun
continue
game.
with that was a fun game.
Yes.
So who won?
I think it was us.
We all.
I'm joking. That's actually the whole.
You.
It was a trick
What do you mean by
question.
that?
It was
No,
a
I'm
trick
joking.
question.
That's the whole point. That it's not a competition.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oopsie.
I didn't get the memo. Like Brent and the clothes.
Let's get back to our
Everyone's
conversation.
dressed in blue one. Everyone-
Yeah.
Back to the conversation.
Okay, so now that we've figured out that there are certain things that guys can do that were considered to be female roles, and there are certain things that girls can do that used to be considered as male roles. So we are more the same than what we are different. I think that's important to understand.
Yes.
We, men and women, were both created in the image of God. We are more the same than what we are different. But the Bible does seem to explain that there is difference.
Yes.
Why is that important?
The question is important because the left-wing strain, the militant strain of feminism speaks about equality equals sameness. And it's important to draw the line in which the Bible speaks about equality due to our differences. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think maybe to latch on that, I mean, obviously, because when we look at the Bible and we as Christians believe that God created women with certain strengths that men do not have, but they need.
Yeah.
And on the flip side as well, God created men with certain strengths that women do not have, but we need. So the problem is, if we have a male-dominated society, it will be a weaker society because then
it's missing
because
those
it's missing
strengths
out on
from
the
women.
strengths
Yes,
that women can bring. And again, on the flip side, if we have a female-dominated society, it will also be a weaker society
That's good.
because then we are missing out on the strengths that men can bring.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so important that we say we are fighting for equality, but it's because we are different. Because we have different strengths, we need to work together like God intended. So it's equality because we are different, because then we will actually have a stronger society and, very importantly, a stronger family structure. You know,
True.
if mom and dad is present, it's a stronger family structure in society.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful picture of. I think if I think about my kids,
Yes.
there are certain things that they get from my wife more than what they get from me, and there are
Yes.
certain things they get from me more than what they get from her, and that's why they love having both of us present in their lives. And so, in the same way, in society, you can make the argument that
Yes.
if, for instance, we've got a justice system or a corporate world
Yeah.
where there are only men, we are missing out on some of those strengths.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
so, and I get what you're saying is that you know, so the argument for equality because of sameness doesn't make sense.
No,
No,
it
it
doesn't.
doesn't.
Doesn't make sense biblically or even scientifically, but
No.
then,
Logically even.
yes, yeah,
Doesn't make
but,
sense.
But equality because of difference,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, that's very good. And I think it's very important also that I think one argument that also goes around is this idea that gender is only a social construct. In other words, that the girls are girls because we raised them to be girls. We gave them a doll to play with and not a car.
Yeah.
And that boys are boys because we raised them to be boys because we gave them a car. And there's lots of, you know, new science on that and actually evidence saying, well, that's not really the case. Gender is not necessarily a social construct.
Yes.
And just like men and women are different at a biological level,
Yeah.
why can they not be different at even other levels?
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from, you know, equality.
Yes.
So two things can be true at the
Doesn't
same
make
time.
anyone
Exactly.
lesser.
No.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. But
Yeah.
still
Because
different.
equality is not synonymous with sameness.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, another thing when it comes to equality, it's actually shocking that we are trying to fight for equality. Because if we look at men and women, if we play in the roles that, you know, we are created to be in, that is when we will find equality. If men, you know, are not
If
overly...
men were real men.
Yeah, if men were real men, this would not be an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Yes.
men weren't passive, if men weren't insecure, they wouldn't be over dominant. And the thing about that is that when we start men start actually living a life of not passivity, but actually, proactively taking responsibility for things, for their family, for the people around them, that is going to create a space where women can actually live out their lives in the way that God wanted them to be. So when these two roles start playing out in a right place, that is when we actually start seeing that equality is not actually the aim. It's a birth. It's like the natural thing to come out of this. It's the fruit of it. So it started with men, and men just need to stop being passive and stop, just sitting around and actually start taking responsibility of their own lives and the lives of people around them.
And I love what you say also, it's because of men being insecure. Because I think, if I think about my wife, I think she's a very strong woman, and I will limit her in terms of her potential of how God created her if I'm insecure. If I try and compete with her, it's that would put a lid on her. But if I'm secure in who God made me to be, then in that environment she will be allowed to flourish. And so that's, I think, what you're basically saying is the cause of feminism is men. That because men were insecure.
It's a bombshell right there.
Maybe to end off, maybe I can ask the ladies some last thoughts just on this statement: men are trash. Are men trash? Men are trash. Because we just spent feminism on men.
Yes.
So
we are smelly, but are we trash?
So if I can just take the opportunity and maybe speak to all the ladies out there, I would like to answer this question in the following way: that yes, some men are trash, but listen very closely, ladies. If you are looking for a man near the dumpster bins, you will find trash.
Amen.
So I would rather want to encourage all the ladies watching that you need to be looking for a God-fearing, Bible-reading, community-loving, Christ-centered man right here at church.
yes.
That
Stop
is
looking
true.
in the dumpsters.
It's true. And if you find that man, he will give you the space to be the woman that you were created to be.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you know who you are, you know the purpose that God has given you. So if you find a man secure in himself, knowing the road that he's taking, and you go with that man, you're going where God is leading you. And you'll be allowed to flourish, the space that you need, the nourishing space for you once you find that man.
Sure.
But as
That's
long as
very
you,
good.
in the company of trash, you will always have to fight for equality.
True.
You are in the company of trash, you will always have to fight for your rights, your empowerment.
Because
your
you're not
equality.
trash.
Don't go looking for him at the pub.
Don't
Find
do
him
that.
in the church.
Find him at
Definitely.
church.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Very good, Again, hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for saving us on this episode and giving us and educating us. It was
Educating
good.
us,
Lots
definitely.
of fun.
So good,
Thanks,
I'm gonna
guys.
go
Thank
wash
you for
some dishes
dressing up
after this.
again.
It's a pleasure.
Cheers.
Blue. Okay.
Much love.
Sorry, Brent.